Bishop Spears, of course, and we're excited about this Wednesday night. I really am excited. I really prepare, I pray, I spend time making ready for this time, what we call Tell Me Your Story. It's been an amazing time because in it we've heard so many people that have had great connection with God, great encounters, and it's been true to what God has said. You remember we talked from Hebrews 11, and in that conversation, the Lord said, began to interview individuals, particularly who have had God encounters. And that's what it's really all about. It's really about telling your story about what God has done in your life. And I'm telling you, it's been amazing. It's been a blessing to me to hear so many different men and women that have experienced God at a whole different level. And so we're blessed tonight to have guests sharing with us, and I'll talk more about that. But let's bow for a word of prayer, and we will get started. Lord, how we bless you and praise you, Father, for this day. God, thank you so much again for another opportunity to hear stories about you, about your life, and about you involved in the life of another man. We pray and we thank you, God. And we ask today that your power and your presence will drive our conversation. We love you and praise you. We thank you in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Now, let me just share with you before we get started. I do want to encourage you. Thank you, those of you, because of weather, you've given extra to make sure that that the church is doing fine. And so I want to encourage you. I really appreciate your gifts in terms of what you've sown into my life for the 40 years of preaching. And I'm so thankful that there are people who remind you of messages that I've preached, and that's been awesome. You never know where you are when the word goes forth, and yet it's encouraging for me as a pastor to hear that the sermons that I've preached, maybe even Bible studies I've done, have been a blessing in your life. And so I want to really appreciate you. Thank you so much for what you do for me, but also for what you do for this church, for this congregation. I really appreciate your love and celebrate who you are as a part of First St. John Cathedral. Amen. We are blessed tonight to have with us Elder Eric Dees. Yes, God bless you, sir. Man, for the most part, most people may not know that you're behind the camera. Yes, God has used you amazingly, tremendously in terms of helping us to navigate through this period of COVID. Yes. And even as I share with you today, my mind today was thinking about Deacon Clarence Simmons. Yes, sir. Yes. And who's just an amazing brother as well, brother. Man. Great brother. And so I really appreciate you, and I appreciate him for all that you guys have done over the years. Yes, sir. In terms of ministry. Thank you, sir. So I'm excited tonight to hear your story. Yes. To borrow from you, I had tiptoe anticipation. Yes. For this evening. Well, you have been, I have a couple of ministers, sons and daughters, that I often say they are born grown. Yes, sir. Yeah. And you are one of those individuals. You, I mean, just on the cutting edge in terms of ministry. And I think that to a large degree, it has a lot to do with, what kind of growth you've had in terms of growing up. Yes. If you've been around, as I know, parents or grandparents, they push you in a different direction. They do. They really do. So let me just share. You're not originally from Fort Worth, but you're from... I grew up in Alabama, a little small town down on the coast, outside of Mobile, Theodore, Alabama. All right. So if you're going east on 10, yes, when you cross that Alabama-Mississippi line into Alabama, it's the second, third exit. All right. After the state line. So a little small town. I call it country. Yeah. But wouldn't trade it for the world. I know that's right. So you're born there, raised there
Yes, sir.
in terms of elementary school? And
Yes, sir. Right there in Theodore, raised my whole young life right there. High school, Theodore High School was the high school I went to.
all right.
But yes, I have fond memories of growing up. I had cousins all around and family close by. I mean, we walked everywhere.
Oh,
and,
man.
And so my had grandmother and grandfather right up the street from us. So you know, it's not like it is today.
Yes.
But it was a great time. We always had a yard full of kids. Everybody was at our house.
So y'all had the gathering place.
Yes, sir. Playing basketball, football,
Yeah.
hide and go seek, something. Everybody was at our house.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
So now, was that like a farm, was it just a lot of land?
It was a lot of land. As a matter of fact, my grandparents, they had a huge vegetable garden.
Okay.
And I have many days, many late evenings with my grandfather in that garden.
Yeah.
And they didn't have animals, but
Yeah.
my mom's mom, she had chickens, and I remember her having a hog or two.
Right.
Even had an outhouse.
All right.
and a hand pump in the front yard to get the water. So,
Oh, man.
So yeah, I've done all that.
That's good.
Yes,
Now, you
sir.
talked about that late hours with your grandfather. What was he like?
Oh wow, Bishop.
Oh, is he still living?
He's passed on. Bishop.
Okay, yes.
But great man.
Yeah.
You know, taught me what it meant to be a man.
Right.
Taking care of your responsibilities.
Right.
Working hard. He would come home. He was a foreman on the state docks in Mobile.
Okay.
And he would come home and get right in that garden.
Yeah.
From a long day down there, right in that garden.
Man.
So I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
All of my handiness.
Yeah.
I got that from him.
Right.
But he just a great man. Now, I'll be honest with you, he wasn't really into the church.
I understand.
I think I could only remember him going to church on Easter. But my grandmother held up that side of
I know that's right.
But just a great man, Bishop.
Yes.
You don't see a lot of men like that.
Right.
Nowadays. When I think about him and men that remind me of him, I think about Deacon Scott,
Yes.
Deacon Hank, Deacon Thomas,
Right.
those kind of men, that
Right.
quality
Right.
of man.
Yes.
Just the original gangsters.
Yes, sir.
You
That's good, man. I think that one of the things that in my conversations of late, with pastors and with just leaders as a whole, we
sir.
talk about how do we connect men to ministry. And, when I hear those conversations, I have to be honest. And there are times when I'm just quiet, and I do that because God has blessed First St. John with a ton of men,
Yes, sir.
great men,
Yes, sir.
from all ages.
Right.
And so, I don't ever want to appear to be bragging in that setting,
Yes,
but
sir.
man, God has been good
We
to
have
First
some-
St. John
Yes,
Cathedral.
sir. We have some excellent brothers
Yeah.
in the church. When we have our class on Tuesday evenings, I always tell them, hey, it does me good
Yes.
to fellowship with
Right.
men that are chasing after God.
Oh, amen.
You know,
Amen.
We just grow off from one another, and that word is true. That iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. That's
it's,
true.
It's enough negative things pulling at you
Right.
out there in the world.
Right.
You need some strong brothers that
That's
are
right.
secure in their faith.
That's exactly
that
right.
you can grow with and learn
Yeah.
with.
And that's what I appreciate. I appreciate about you. I mean, you have just, an amazing aura.
Thank you, sir.
If I can say that about who you are as a man, and such a servant heart. And
Thank you,
so
sir.
I really
Yes.
appreciate that. You serve as the leader for our men's ministry.
Yes, sir.
And I've watched it grow. I've watched you move through the different challenges.
Yes, sir.
With people being in place, people being out of place.
Yes, sir.
But you've gone with the goers.
That's right. And Bishop, sometimes when that people moving in and out, you gotta you have to pull on people that
Right.
may not have saw themselves
Right.
in that spot.
Yeah.
And, you know, but God has shown you
Yes.
the talents and the traits inside of them, and it just needs some nurturing to pull it out of
That's
them.
good.
You know, I can remember when we first moved into Watauga, we were having the,
Yes.
you know, the prayer on Thursdays.
Yes.
And, you know, it was some brothers around that circle. I was calling on to pray, and they were like, I never prayed in this setting, but you know, I said, you just trust God and the Holy Spirit, and them some praying.
Yes, they are, man. They have grown in that.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
you know, to hear those fellas, man, talk to the Lord.
Yes, sir.
And they're not trying to be impressive,
No,
man. They
no.
really just pouring out their
That's right.
heart. And so that's a powerful piece, but it says much about your leadership because they've grown spiritually.
Yes, sir.
And that's really what it's all about.
Definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about college life and what you majored in,
Yes, sir.
and you're an engineer, and
Yes,
so
sir.
God has been good in that.
God has been great. I'm not going to share all of it. I'm like you on
All
that.
right.
It's some stuff you just
you just pass that by.
Yes, and I'll start, Bishop, on how I got to college.
All right,
You know, I served in the military and had finished up that, and I was going to Bishop State Community College there in Mobile.
Yes.
And always been fascinated with electronics, and so I was in a electronics course and just about done.
Right.
Had a job lined up with a company repairing hospital equipment. And
Wow.
it was going to pay well, and I had a cousin at Alabama A&M, and had gone up to see him a couple of times. And I call him my cousin, but we were really like brothers.
Right.
Went up to see him a couple of times, and every time he was like, "Why don't you think about coming to school up here and getting a 4-year degree?" And I was like, "Well, you know, been in the Navy. I'm about finished with junior college. Have a job lined up. So you know, I got a plan, but God always has the plan. Plan.
Right.
And my grandmother, my dad's mom, my little mama, Laura Pierce Dees.
Yes.
She was on me, and I know her and my cousin had been talking about it, but she started getting on me about you need to go to a 4-year college.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, wow, you know,
Yeah.
this thing is, you know, I'm hearing the same thing, the same direction.
Right.
And so I had one of my teachers at the junior college, Mr. William Autry, he brought it up.
Yeah.
He was like, have you thought about going to a 4-year college? And I'm like, where's all this coming from?
Yeah.
And so I was sitting in the living room one evening with my grandmother, and like all our grandmothers, she had a big Bible sitting on that coffee table.
Yes,
and
sir.
She picked it up and she started reading. And she just stopped and she said, you know, the Lord is telling me that you really need to look at going to a college.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm gonna be obedient.
Yes.
You know, that's my little mama. I'm gonna listen to what she's saying.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to my cousin, and Alabama A&M just had started their electrical engineering program.
Wow.
And they had inducted their first class. And so he said, come up and you know, we'll go and go to the building. You can meet the dean and talk to him. So I went up and talked to the dean, Dr. Trent Montgomery, and you know, just, you know how you feel at home?
Right.
It just, talking to him, and it just felt that I was at home.
Amen.
And so that fall semester, I was up there on campus.
Wow.
And I told my cousin, I said, you know, I can't live in a dorm. I said, I've been in the Navy. You know,
I've had that.
I've been there.
Yeah.
And so he and I got an apartment together off campus, and you know, I majored in electrical engineering. Yes, it was a challenge.
Right.
Still have some awesome friends out of that experience. You know, my cousin was 2 years ahead of me, and so when he graduated, Wallace Lee, a good friend of mine, we got an apartment together.
Right.
And he graduated electrical engineering too. it would be nice. I would be coming home from work, Bishop, and I would hear the music come out the apartment, and I would be like, Lord, please don't let that music be coming from my house. So I'll share a little bit about that little piece. But it was a great experience at an HBCU.
That's it.
You know, I would implore anybody, any young person that's thinking about going to school, look at HBCUs.
Amen.
It's an experience that will make you a better individual out of that.
Oh my God!
Because it's like family.
Yes.
You know, you talking to some of those.
That's right.
Some of those mothers on campus, and it's like you talking to your mother or your grandmother.
Right. Yes.
And you know they're not going to steer you wrong.
Yeah, we used to always say, Bishop, man, if you can make it through here, you can make it anywhere. I mean, it's just a line that works on any campus.
Hey,
you know,
that's right.
I was listening though, and you were talking about your interest in electronics.
Yes, sir.
Was there somebody in your family that even initiated that?
No, sir. I got in a lot of trouble as a kid taking stuff apart, and my mom will testify on that.
Yeah.
Just I always had a natural for things electronic, things mechanical. You know, if my father and grandfather were working on the car, I was right there with them.
Right.
You know, and I have fond memories of that.
Yeah.
But I always just had that.
That's good.
God just put that in me.
That's good.
But yeah, I got in a lot of trouble.
I understand.
Taking stuff apart and couldn't get it back together.
Well, I had just the opposite. I knew that I didn't need to be around electronics. I always tell people about me and my bobby pin. I had a bobby pin as a little boy, and my mother told me, "Don't put that in there."
That plug.
Man, I just wanted to see what it would do. I stuck that bobby pin inside of that electrical piece, man. It tore my hand up, boy. Seemed like here I am 40, 50 years later, I still have some tingling.
When you think about it.
Yeah, when I think about it. But man,
sir.
that is awesome, you know, and you're so right. And there's so many young brothers who are watching, who are sharing, and I mean, they pay attention to young brothers' lives, man. And so that's real good, because we got to begin to push young cats. I use that word cats, man, a lot, you know. But we've got to push them in a direction to better themselves.
And that is so true.
Yeah.
You know, I look at the brothers that I consider friends.
Yeah.
And as you know, we're raising two young black men.
Yes.
And so, you know, one of my duties as a father is to surround them with people that are doing positive things, that are doing major things.
That's right.
And not just, you know, my kids look at the news just like we do, and they see the negativity.
Right.
And I hate to say the dark side of African American males, but that's what TV shows them.
That's right.
But I need to surround them with some positive influence.
That's
you
good.
know, and I tell the brothers around me, if I'm not around, then I expect you all to keep this thing, keep it progressing.
Keep it going. That's exactly right.
So we have to do that.
Yeah.
You know.
And you've got to have that. I discovered that you've got to have other men who are positive.
Definitely.
You know, to speak life into the lives of your sons.
Right. That's right.
Even young ladies, man, need a positive man to say, you know, this is good or that's bad. And so, you know, for a man, it can get you in trouble because they think you're being mean. But if I'm protecting you, you know, I got to be, if I'm caring for you as a young lady, you know, growing up in terms of ministry, part of my family, my life, I got to tell you the truth.
That's true.
Yeah.
We have a young lady that's a part of our lives. I won't call her name because everybody knows her. And she came over to the house one day, and her car was it was dirty.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I said, you got a bow in your life?
Yeah.
she said, yes. I said, he riding this car?
Yeah.
She said, yes. I said, he can't wash your car?
Yeah.
I say the car wash is $3 if you want to just take your car and get it clean. I said, you know, I said that's kind of
that's a respect level. That's good.
Right. That's right. You know, and Tamika was telling me, I said no, because you know, I wouldn't feel right
Yeah.
if she was my daughter.
Right.
And I know she's talking to this guy and he can't.
Yeah.
I said, anyway, I would be watching the car for her if she was my daughter.
Right.
But I said, you know, like you just said, these young ladies, you don't settle.
Right.
You know, you have to get somebody in your life that's pulling in the same direction you pulling.
That's exactly right.
You know, not somebody that's just going to sit on your couch all day and watch TV.
That's right, and watch TV. Yeah, yeah. They wear a spot in the couch, you know. The couch only fit their butt, you know.
Yes, sir.
So that's good. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, you've been here in ministry. You've been working, man, diligently.
Yes,
when we were at the skating ring,
sir.
loading and unloading,
Yes, sir.
Your commitment in that place was just powerful. At what place did you begin to make a real connection in terms of God? I know you've had godly grandparents and parents, you know, that's a part of that upbringing.
You know, Bishop, the first real connection that I can remember, I was 10 or 11 years old, and I sitting in Sunday school,
right?
Brother J.C. Sullivan, it was our Sunday school teacher, Deacon J.C. Sullivan, and just Deacon Sullivan, he had a concrete company and a construction company, and just listening to him teach those lessons and make it to where a 10, 11-year-old could make that practical in my life. It wasn't shortly after that I accepted God and accepted the Lord as my Savior and got baptized.
Yes.
But just remembering, just being in that Sunday school class and just wondering, okay, what is this speaking to me?
Right.
And just him explaining the Holy Spirit and God's prompting and how God will talk to you through the aid of the Holy Spirit.
My God.
Just really led me into that place at 10, 11 years old.
That's good.
And my grandparents, my grandmothers especially, you've heard me, I've used this in some of my sermons,
yes.
you heard me talk about this. My little mama, my dad's mom, soft-spoken. I remember her teaching us our first prayer, now lay me down to sleep.
Yes.
All of that. Now, my mom's mom, Ruth Lee Patterson. Now, she was a godly woman. But she was a lot of street too. She was gonna love on you.
Yeah, but she gonna tell you.
She was gonna tell you the truth, and the truth hurts sometimes.
Yes, sir.
Blessed to be surrounded by a family and individuals that helped lead me on that journey, on that path to really accepting the Lord into my life.
You know, one of the things that I'm now listening more and more, and over the years, people have conversations about what church life was like growing up, and I can't remember a time where I didn't enjoy going to church.
Yes, sir.
Even now when people say, well, we were made to go, we were drugged, and that may be true for some people, man, but I always enjoyed being in church.
Yes, I was in that same vein. My mom and dad worked, of course. And I remember my mom getting us up before she had to go to work. Right. Getting us dressed. Right. And sometimes we would walk to church. Yeah. Me, my brother and sister would walk to church. But it never was an instance where I felt like, man, we got to go to church again. It never was that. Our pastor back then, the name of the church is Mount Airy Missionary Baptist Church. Yes. And Reverend B.J. Parker was the pastor then. And I mean, I always say, so we sing those old songs sometimes. Just remind me of being in that church and hearing him preach. Wow. And old school Baptist preacher. Yes, sir. But I never felt like ill will toward going to church or being at church.
Right. That's same here, and I hear guys, I'm careful now on what I say amen to.
Yes, sir.
I hear conversation. There used to be a place where you say amen. Yeah, that's right. But man, in these days, when I rethink it, I'm like, I can't say yes to that if it's not true
Yes,
in
sir.
my own personal life experience.
True.
Yeah.
That's so true, Bishop.
So you moved to Fort Worth. What was that like? How did you get here?
Oh wow. Last year college, about to graduate, had a couple of job offers, IBM, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, but they were all up on the East Coast, and I'm not a cold weather person.
Right.
I remember Bishop, the recruiter from IBM, talking to him on the phone, and he said, we have a job offer for you, but it's in Fishkill, New York. It's like Fishkill, New York. Is it even on the map?
I've never heard of
and
that.
I said, well, where is that at? He says it's in upstate New York. And I said, well, how cold does it get there? And I remember him saying, he said, well, if you got to ask that, this is probably not the job for you. I was like, thank you for your time.
Yes.
You know. And when I was in the Navy, I had a good friend of mine, lives in Houston now, but he was from Texas.
Right.
And, his folks would come down and just hearing about Texas. And I was like, man, it'd be nice to go to Texas one day. And I got a letter in the mail from Lockheed Martin. And they were hiring a big hiring event back in 2001. And they invited me to come out, put us up at the Worthington. And they had a big college hiring event over at the plant.
Right.
And came out and had 3 interviews that day. And the last person I interviewed with, what he was talking about them doing was right up my alley. Hands-on with electronics testing.
Right. Yes.
He said, hey, you may get to travel a little bit. I said, hey, that's great. And he just made it sound so interesting. And just drew me into it.
That's good.
And so he and we hit it off.
Wow.
And we probably talked about the job. We had about 30 minutes to talk to each other. And we probably talked about the job for 5 minutes. And the rest of the time, it was like we had been knowing each other for a long time.
Those are the amazing conversations
when
you meet people, man, and it's like you've been knowing them for years. And some of you're just meeting them for the first time. Yeah.
And so he made me a job offer. I accepted. And when I told my family about, hey, I have a job offer and it's in Texas. And like a lot of times you tell people, hey, I'm moving. A lot of people are like, you don't know nobody in Texas.
Yeah.
Why you going way out there?
Yeah.
And what if something happened? And I was like, well, I know the Lord.
Yes.
And I know the man that interviewed me.
Yeah.
And that's enough. And
that's enough. Yes.
We're probably getting this a little later, but I can remember talk to my grandmother, my little mama, about the job, and she's like, if the Lord has lined it up, He will take care of you.
Yes.
And she said, don't worry about what people saying.
Right.
She said, we're here for you, and you just go on out there and start the next chapter in your life.
Wow.
And Bishop, I remember I went home for 2 weeks after graduation. And Lockheed that came and packed the movie company came and packed all the stuff up in Huntsville and moved it out here to Fort Worth. And when I went home, my grandmother just loaded me up with stuff.
Wow.
Just all kind of stuff. And I'm thinking in my head, how am I going to get all this stuff off this truck when I get, because it's just me.
Yeah.
But God provided,
yes.
But that's how I got to Fort Worth.
Wow.
After school with the job with Lockheed Martin.
That's awesome,
yes,
man.
Sir.
That's awesome. God will always provide.
He'll always provide.
Every time, man, no matter.
Yes, sir.
That's what's really exciting about a relationship with God. He will always provide.
Definitely.
You don't have to know, all you have to know, you don't have to know how He's going to do it. You have to know that He will.
That's right.
You have to know that He will.
He will.
Amen.
And I'll tell you a little bit of my, you asked about school, Bishop. When I was in elementary school, I struggled.
Wow.
I struggled. I could hardly read.
Wow.
Just total transparency.
Yeah. Yes.
I would be looking at words on the page, and the words would be moving around like ants. And just show you how God will place people in your life. My aunt was a secretary at the elementary school I went to, Young Ray Davis Elementary, there in Theodore. And she got me lined up with a tutor. I think I was in the 3rd, 4th grade. And that lady just, her
Yeah.
technique
Right.
just helped me to overcome that. And by the 6th grade, I was class president, just
Wow.
on top of my game.
Yeah.
Just show you how God will place people
man,
in your life. But it was a struggle. I remember people making fun of me.
Yeah.
Our family members
Right.
making fun of me.
Right.
But it was a struggle. And it gets me emotional at times.
I understand.
But it was a struggle.
Yeah.
Just to read a sentence.
Yeah. You know, we didn't know terms like dyslexia. We didn't know those terms as kids growing up in our communities, you know, and we didn't know that term until we heard that term on the Cosby Show.
Yes, sir.
You know, and it became apparent that there were kids or children who were experiencing that, and how we bless and praise God that term came up, because then we began to be able to point children in the right direction.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You know, I remember my grandmother praying for me all the time, and just you talking about laying hands, and she would just put her hand on me and just pray for me.
Yeah.
And I'm still riding on them on those
Come on
prayers.
here. Yes,
you know,
sir.
Because I'll be honest with you, Bishop. I'll be reading things and I can feel that thing creeping up.
Yeah.
You know, and I just, you know,
Right.
Just Lord help me.
Yeah.
Through this and where God has brought me to.
Yeah, man. It's amazing.
Through all that.
Yeah.
I can't do nothing but praise.
Yeah, I was just even in elementary school and middle, you know, just the challenge of reading. I guess I don't know if that was a piece that young men experience or whatever. I know it's a you know, area that's many people deal with. And I had a teacher who taught me how to draw a line under as I read. When you read my books or you see my books,
you
see my Bible, I got lines everywhere.
Yes,
but
sir.
my comprehension is extremely well because I draw a line.
Yes, sir.
And so it's my craft. It's the craft that God has given me. And so the Lord has used that tool over my life.
Yes, sir.
40 years of preaching. I'm still drawing lines.
You know, the enemy tries, he knows the plan for your life.
Right.
And so, you know, I look at it, he tries to get in the way early.
Yeah.
But God will orchestrate that thing where if you just walk in it, hey, he'll take care of all the bumps in the road. He will take care of that.
So you moved to Fort Worth, you're working, and you meet this young lady.
Yes, sir.
Full of fire, power of the Holy Ghost.
Yes. Wow, that's a great story. Moved to Fort Worth. I had been here, Bishop, already probably 8 years before I met Tamika. And when this story begins with Vaughn Clement.
Wow.
Vaughn Clement. I met him on the factory floor over there at Lockheed.
Wow.
We were at a Black History program, month of February, Black History program.
Wow.
And I'm standing in line behind him, and we just started a conversation.
Wow.
And he said, hey, where are you going to church at?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm not in church right now, and that's another long story.
Yeah.
And he said, well, we're starting a Bible study, Bible talk at the skating rink.
Wow.
And he said, why don't you come? And I was living in Saginaw at the time. I said, well, that's nowhere from my house. I'm definitely come. And so started coming, joined, got active in media. And at that time, I don't think the dance team was coming over just yet. We weren't having Sunday service over there yet. Sunday service was still here, but we were doing Bible study. And that Easter Sunday, we had the first service in the skating rink. And the dance team came over.
Right.
And that's when I first saw Tamika.
Right.
And I didn't know a whole lot of people in the church. I definitely didn't know her.
Right.
And Elder Ann was coming over sometimes on Monday and helping out with the sound.
Right.
And so some months went on before I even asked anybody about her. And you had formed the Tribe of Judah Men's Chorus.
Yes.
And we were over here one Sunday to sing, and they were dancing, and I saw her again, and it was like Bishop, it was like nobody else was in the church but her. And God just shined the light on her.
Right.
And that Monday, I think Elder Ann came back to Watauga for Bible talk.
Yeah.
And I asked her about a young lady on the dance team. Now, I didn't know she was going to go back. It must be a female thing.
It is.
I didn't know.
You asked the right person.
I didn't know she was going to go back and mention this to Tamika. And just how God works it, Tamika saw me too. And just, and that's how that connection first started.
Right.
And I remember Tamika coming over for Bible talk one Monday, and we were talking at the service out in the parking lot, and that's how our first date. And she'll laugh about this. Our first date, we went to Home Depot. And just like you said, if you can make it through this,
you can make it through this.
You can make it through anything. Hey, you gonna see the real me.
Yeah.
You know. But that was our first date. But just really hit it off. And if in total honesty, there were other interests.
Sure.
But God was like, this is the one.
Yeah.
And you know, the word talks about being equally yoked.
Yeah.
And just how God has just blessed our marriage. You know the stories of our children, of what the doctors were saying, and just how God has just moved in that place and blessed us with two bright young men.
Yes.
And how we have just come together, our union. God has blessed us, but He has allowed us to be a blessing to His kingdom, a blessing to people around us.
Amen.
And He just blows our minds with what He manifests in our lives, and you know, we just give Him the glory. But she is my rock. You know, you hear a lot. You know, you always hear that cliche. It's good to have a strong woman behind you. It's good to have a strong woman beside you.
Amen.
And pulling in the same direction as you. You know, I think back to some of my past relationships when I wish I would have listened to my grandmothers, and not to be comparing, but I'm leaps and bounds from where I was.
So you married up?
I married way up, Bishop. I married way up, and you know, it's if you look at it, who God puts you with, how they make you a better person.
That's good.
You know, and just I think about some of the things that I'm in today that I've you know, would I have been there if it wasn't for somebody supporting, somebody driving, encouraging, creating that environment where you can grow.
Amen.
When I preached that last Sunday in 2020 and talked about people being, when COVID first happened, and people being quarantined with people they can't stand. You know, that's a hard place. When there's a border down the middle of your house, and it's two warring countries, and then you can't don't come over here, and I'm not coming over there. That's a horrible place to be. But to have somebody that is always a blessing.
That's good.
No matter the situation, no matter what life is doing. Just always positive about how we can come together and overcome those things. So
let's talk about ministry. You came into the ministry.
Yes, sir.
What was that conversation? I mean, I always like hearing, what was God saying to Eric Dees?
Well, the first thing He was saying was stop running. And you know, the conversation got very serious when Tamika and I got engaged. I remember conversation in your office, her and I, about this, and some of the things that God was leading you to say during those conversations. It was like, God, you know, is it a recorder in my house? You know, is you know, and you know, as humans, sometimes we can be very nearsighted, in what God has in store for us. God is His vision is way out there, and I go back to lining up with what God has, the plans God has for our lives, and just being obedient to what He is calling us into. It was a struggle, Bishop.
Yeah.
Because my flesh, I believe that I was giving up something.
Yeah.
By walking in that. I was giving up something by walking in that.
Yeah.
You know, and what I was giving up was a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff
Right.
that didn't mean me no good in the first place.
Right.
But one night, like I said, this was before we got married. We were engaged. I was at home by myself, and God I could hear God calling my voice clearly.
Yeah.
Like somebody was in the house calling my name, Eric.
Yeah.
And I just was quiet and just listened.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you hear people say, "Well, God don't speak to you like that." And,
Right.
Hey, their experience is not my experience.
Right.
And just hearing God clearly say the things that not only the things He had in store for me, but the things that He required of me, and how that while I was thinking that this walk was going to be hard, reminded me of what His Word says, that hey, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And if you come out from under those worldly things, right? You know, I have a plan for your life, and that plan includes blessings. That plan includes God's support. That plan includes whatever battle you may face. If I'm on your side, I don't care how many people against you. Right. You know, you're gonna win every time. You're gonna get the victory. And He has, since I accepted my calling, and you know, just like Moses did, you know, every excuse. Right. Hey, you know, God, sometimes I stumble over my words, you know, you know. And God, He said, don't worry about those things. Yeah. I'm going to give you the word. Yeah. I'm going to put words in your mouth you didn't know you had. Right. You know, so you know, He worked that thing through Tamika. Right. And not saying that she said, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Yeah. You know, it was that placing her in my life and saying, okay, this is the woman for you. You're the man for her. Mm-hmm. But for you to be the man for her, this is where I need you to get to. My God. And I go back to the things that my grandfather taught me. Right. You have to take care of your responsibility, and in that there is some growing, there is some stretching. Right. There are some uncomfortable times, right? You know, in that, but in the uncomfortable, those are the things that make you stronger. Those are the things that prepare you for when the trouble comes. You say, I've seen that before, right, and I know how to handle that, right. And as a man of my house, right, you know, my family came looking at me saying, "What are we gonna do?" And I don't have an answer for them. Right. Yeah. Just like when it got cold last week, and the electricity was turning off, and all those things. You know, I'm chuckling because you know I remember telling Tamika that, okay, if the lights go off, our neighbor just cut down the tree up the street. I'm gonna go up there and get that wood, and I'm gonna start a fire in this fireplace. I said, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be okay.
So let me ask you one question now. I'm gonna get to. This piece comes about, tell me your story in terms of when God said to me, there are people who have had godly encounters.
Yes, sir.
What is, and I know you've had numerous things, but what is the one thing that was a miracle that God did in your life that changed, you know, this new word we use, the trajectory.
Yes, sir.
Trajectory of your life.
Yes, sir. I can say, Bishop, I remember now, where I grew up at and where Alabama A&M is, I grew up on the coast of Alabama. Mm-hmm. A&M is up in Huntsville, almost in Tennessee. Yeah. So 5-hour drive. Mm-hmm. And I had went home one weekend to visit, and I was headed back. I had some on my mind. I won't go into all that, but I had some on my mind, and it was raining, and I had a 78 Oldsmobile 98 coupe. Wow. And it was raining, and being at Oldsmobile, I couldn't even see the needle. I was just trying to get back to school. Yeah. You know, I was about 3 hours away from home. I made on the other side of Montgomery and had a flat tire. Changed the tire, no problem. Got back on the road. The spare blew out. Wow. And blew out. I was probably doing 85 when it blew out, and the car was just all over the road. Got it under control. Got pulled over to the side. Now I'm in the middle of nowhere. If you're ever on 65 between Mobile and Montgomery, it's nothing but pine trees out there. And in between Montgomery and Birmingham, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And a black man in Alabama on the side of the road.
Yes, Lord.
You know, so I did the only thing I knew how to do, and that was pray.
Yeah.
You know, what my grandmothers had taught me to do. And so I'm there on the side of the road looking at this tire, and it's like, you know, no cell phone at that time.
Right.
My cousin's girlfriend lived in Birmingham, but like I said, I was in between Montgomery and Birmingham, and I was like, how can I get in touch with her? I don't know her number. There's no exit nowhere. And this car pulls over. White couple, and the gentleman gets out, and he said, hey, I saw your tire blow out, and he said, I told him, well, I didn't think you were gonna get it under control. He said the car was all over the place. Yeah. And he said, thank God nobody was next to you. But he said, but you got it under control. You got it pulled over. He goes, do you have a spare? And I said, well, the spare is flat. I said, this is a spare, and the tire in the trunk is flat. And he was like, well, we can give you a ride to the next exit. And the next exit was 22 miles away. He said, we can give you a ride to the next exit. And I was like, Lord, I'm finna get in the car with these white people.
Yeah.
And just cover me.
Yeah,
you know, cover them.
Yeah.
So, you know, got the tire out of the trunk. They took me to the next exit. There was a Walmart. They couldn't get the tire on the rim.
Wow.
And there was a guy in there waiting, and he said, another white guy, he said, there's a tire shop down the street. He said, I've been here all morning, and these guys can't get my tires on either. So I said, well, just give me the rim, and we'll go to this next place. And we went down the road. They took me there. They got the tire on. They offered to pay for the tire. Because in the meantime, we were talking about where I was going. I was telling about I was in school, and they, you know, they were elated about that, and they offered to pay for the tire. I said, no, I have money. I'll take care of the tire. And took me back to my car, helped me to put the tire on, followed me to Birmingham, made sure I got let me back up. The gentleman gave me his card. I did not look at it. Put it in my pocket. He said, you sure you don't need any money? I said, I'm good. You know, I appreciate it. He said, we're going to follow you to Birmingham. He said, that's where we're going. Make sure you get there all right. Gave me his card. I didn't look at it, put it in my pocket. Made it on to Birmingham, made it on to Huntsville, back to my apartment. I was unpacking and reached in my pocket and looked at the card. And on the card, it said, I don't remember. I probably still got the card at home. I don't remember his name. It was Pastor, his name, and his church.
Jesus.
And I was like, God, you sent an angel.
Yeah.
You know, and from at that moment, all the things that I had learned about God, about the Bible, all the things that my grandmothers, my parents had sown into me about the Word, all those things
Jesus.
Came back up in my mind, what they had been telling me, how God will watch over you and cover you if you just line up with the plan that he has for your life. And that was a pivotal moment in my life, in my walk with God, and where I was going. And still had a lot of growing to do, Bishop. But that was a moment God showed up in my life, where I was aware of what God was doing, and just that this is just not a coincidence. That these things happen. Jesus. You know, I was expecting a long walk that day.
My God.
You know, and to have these people that didn't look like me pull up in Alabama,
Jesus,
get me to where I needed to get help, get me back to my car, and get me on my way. That wasn't nobody but God.
Nobody but God.
Nobody but God. For them to be behind me on the highway,
Jesus,
you know, and I say the first flat was to line me up to meet these people, because if I wouldn't have had a flat the first time, we would have never been close to each other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So it's an amazing piece, and I always look for moments like this, and you already know this, that there are people who are watching tonight,
Yes,
E,
sir.
who, man, they got some stuff, with COVID,
Yes.
with the ice and the snow. We've got people, man, who are calling.
Yes.
I just shared with you earlier from Sacramento,
Yes, sir.
California, people who are of faith, different beliefs in terms of who they are, but
Yes.
they have a passion for God, and they're reaching out saying,
sir.
we want to help.
Yes, sir.
And so there are people who are just going through some things. I want you to, man, to this camera, man, just minister to somebody.
Yes, sir.
And, because there may be some individuals, maybe some, in my spirit, I hear some young lady who's single. In my spirit, I mean, someone who's watching, who is, they trying to find that right man. They trying to
Yes.
find the man with that characteristic, and they keep finding the same guy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They keep finding the same guy, and this never end up being the guy that God
Yes, sir.
wants for them.
Yes, sir.
But they keep being lured into the same or similar relationships.
Understandable, yes.
So just take a moment and minister.
Yes, sir.
man.
First of all, I'll tell you that it's not a race; it's a journey.
Yeah.
And at times it may seem like darkness is all around you, but if you keep your hand in God's hand and listen to what God is saying to you, we have a sign in our house that says, "Be still and be quiet," because sometimes God whispers; He speaks in the quiet things. We have to turn down the volume of life at times and turn up the volume of God, and just get somewhere and be still and listen to what He's saying. I know that it's easy for me to say that, but I'll tell you, with the journey that I have been on and the testimony that I have over my life, the challenges, the trials, the hurdles that I've had to overcome, not of Eric, but of trusting in the Lord. Your faith will carry you a mighty long way. I just like the old saints say, if you keep your eyes stayed on God, that it's all going to work out on your behalf. I know there's a lot that we've been facing over this last year, storms over this past week, loss of loved ones, but we are still here.
Yeah.
And we are here because God has a plan for our lives. God, He keeps His promise. His word never fails. Those prayers you've been praying, it's in God's timing. Shake off that impatientness with the Lord. It's in His timing, and He is always right on time. For those men out there that are struggling with things, that, we struggle with our emotions. We struggle with loneliness.
Yes,
we
Lord.
struggle with heaviness. Know that God is still on your side. Know that the things that God has told you, the things that God is calling you into, and I'm not saying God is calling you to preach, but God is calling all of us to be better, calling all of us to be better men, to grow, to be in the places that God has meant for us to be, to mentor those young men in your lives, to be that example, because you know that someone is always watching. We can be a good example or we can be a bad example.
Yes,
to be
Lord.
that positive example in our young men and in the young women that are around us. We have to shake off that old man that the world has the world's perspective has on black men, that they have that we're all evil, we're all bad, we're all negative. We have to shake that off and drive positive impacts into our communities. So the things that we deal with as men, know that we all deal with that. And there are brothers out there that you can come alongside of and fellowship with and grow with and talk about those things. Find a good men's ministry. There's a good one inside this church.
Amen.
Find a good men's ministry, a place where you're being fed the word, fed manna from heaven.
Yes,
those
God.
are the things that support the spirit inside of you, that help us all to be better. For those young women out there, don't settle.
Yeah.
Don't settle.
Yeah.
It's easy to settle for baggage.
Yes.
It's easy to settle,
My
to tie yourself to rocks. God meant for you to soar, and you can't soar the entire rocks.
Right.
You know,
Jesus.
I go back to the patience piece. Sometimes we have to be patient. Bishop just mentioned that we're trying to find that person. You have to let God lead that person to you. And God is not going to lead someone to you who's not on the same page as you. And also, we can't change anybody.
Right.
Sometimes we say, "Oh, I'll take them.
Yeah.
They look good.
Yeah.
I can change them."
Yeah.
Well. I'm sorry. That has not worked out for anybody.
Right.
Let God lead that person to you. Put that in God's hand, and be attentive to God's timing. This time, while you're by yourself, this is a time for you to grow. A time for you to nurture the talents and the knowledge and wisdom that God has placed in you. So when that person does come along, you know, it's going to be so much better with you both being on the same page, with you both pulling in the same direction. You know, my grandfather used to say, you can't tie a thoroughbred up with a donkey. Now, he didn't use the word donkey, but in this instance, that's the word I'm going to use. So if you look at a thoroughbreds are usually out there running on the racetrack, and you know, they have a drive and an urge to be successful, to win. Now, a donkey can be stubborn. No matter where you try to lead it to, it's going to go in the opposite direction. So you're a thoroughbred in God's eyes. Don't tie yourself to a donkey.
Wow.
And just continue the good fight. Continue the good fight. Yeah. Don't be envious of what other people have, what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Put your attention on the things that God has planned for your life, and it'll all work out on your behalf. Keep your hand in God's hand. Keep your eyes stayed on Him. Stay in His Word. Continue to pray. Prayer works.
Yes,
Continue
Lord.
to stay focused on the things that God has placed in front of you, and it will work out on your behalf. That goes for men and women. Focus. We had a word on focus a few months back. Stay focused on the things that God has for your life, and don't let the noise of the world knock you off course.
My God.
Stay focused.
Yeah. I often say stay the course, and that's that same piece. And let me just lovingly appreciate you for who you are.
Yes, sir.
There's not been a place or time in my life, in terms of our time of knowing each other, that you haven't prayed for me in private, prayed for me in public.
Sir.
And I praise the Lord for your sense in terms of the spirit of being able to discern when there are places or times that I need prayer. That during this whole transitional piece in terms of the challenge of COVID and, social media, all of the stuff, you know, God has just used, and I give, you know, again, for Deacon Clarence Simmons, you both, have been just stellar in my life in preparing me for this time, and I really appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
But I thank you for your prayers. You know, I used to talk about, I was worried about the people who prayed for me, because that meant a lot to me.
Yes, sir.
My own personal grandparents and my own personal great aunts and uncles, you know, who prayed for me. When those people died, man, I had I almost needed counseling.
Understandable. That's understandable.
Because it meant so much. They had done it so long. And my life, in terms, whenever there was something that was happening, transitioning my life, they were there when I called and said, hey, here's what's happening, and they would pray. But what God has done in these years, man, God has given me people like yourself. I was reaching out to Mother Benny Bailey today, who is one of those persons, Evangelist Mays, who often prays, Sister Young, Jetty Young. I mean, people, man, who are often praying. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Of course, my family, you know, but man, you've been a major person that God has used. And it never fails that whenever there's an uneasiness, and you pray, man, there's a settling, and that's a different settling.
Yes, sir.
Because it provides a peace.
Yes, sir.
A peace that surpasses all understanding. And so I wanna say to you tonight, First St. John Cathedral, I'm looking forward to the place and time when you also will sit beside me so that I can hear your story. What an amazing thing that God can meet you on the side of a road.
Amen.
Even when life will cause your tires to blow out, and you can use that illustration for whatever, because there are blowouts that we have in life. But what I believe is that God can make the difference in your life. And as we've heard, even in Elder Eric Dees' life, what God has done to put him on the course, it's just so amazing. And I believe that for you, whatever it is that you are experiencing, God is able to make things better.
Yes.
And so I pray for you. I pray for our church often, because I believe that a role that I have is to cover the body of Christ. Pray for First St. John Cathedral. I pray over every household. I pray over every family that I can. And I pray about those needs that I know about that you may have or you may be experiencing. But so I'm asking God to bless you even in this season. Some of you are having plumbing problems, and you're having concerns because of the snow and just major things. I just pray that the Lord will bless you. I pray that God will keep you.
Yes.
I pray that God will make his face to shine upon you, that the Lord will be gracious to you, and that the Lord will bless you with overwhelming peace until we meet again. And I believe it's going to happen real soon. As a matter of fact, as the days and weeks move forward, we'll begin soon to talk about what reopening will look like, what we do in terms of coming back into the sanctuary. Let me encourage you. Don't be afraid of taking the shot, the vaccination. I've done that. I've taken both, and I'm encouraging. Got good news today that Johnson & Johnson will be releasing, and we're praying. Because some of you are saying you don't know that you can do both shots. Well, Johnson & Johnson is talking about potentially a medicine or vaccination that will only take one shot. And we're just praying. We're praying. This is a place or a season where the body of Christ has to continue to pray and believe that God is able to do exceedingly and well above anything you or I could even imagine. Love you much. Stay with us. We're looking, man, that word for Sunday is going to be a blessing. Remember, we have to win word wars even before we go to battle. Love you much. God bless you. Peace.